I want you to imagine something with me for just a moment. You're lying in bed next to someone you've loved for decades, and one of you reaches out, and the other one quietly pulls away and says, almost under their breath, "We're too old for that now." Those 7 words can feel like a door closing forever. They can feel like the end of passion, the end of playfulness, the end of feeling truly desired. And if you're the one who heard them, or if you're the one who said them, I want you to know something right now. That moment does not have to be the final chapter. Because at 64 years old, I proved that wrong in my own life, and I want to take you inside exactly how that happened. I'm the intimacy doctor. Real talk, real science, real intimacy. A couple of years ago, I was exactly where so many of you are right now. My husband and I had been together for 8 years. We had raised children, built careers, survived loss, celebrated wins, and somewhere along the way we had quietly slipped into what so many long-term couples do, a comfortable, affectionate, deeply loving, but almost entirely non-sexual relationship. We still held hands. We still kissed goodnight. But the spark, the hunger, the "I can't keep my hands off you" energy that used to define us, we both assumed it had retired with our younger selves. And then one ordinary Tuesday evening, something shifted. We were sitting on the couch after dinner, watching some mindless show, and out of nowhere he looked at me and said, "Do you ever miss us the way we used to be?" I felt my throat tighten because I did miss us terribly. But I had convinced myself that wanting that at our age was somehow greedy or unrealistic. I thought good sex and electric intimacy belonged to people with fewer wrinkles and more time. But that night, I answered him honestly for the first time in years. I said, "I miss you so much it hurts sometimes." And instead of changing the subject or making a joke like we usually did, we just sat there in that truth. No defensiveness, no shame. Just 2 human beings admitting that something precious had been sleeping between us. That conversation became the first domino. And over the next 18 months, we rebuilt an intimate life that is honestly more connected, more playful, and more passionate than anything we experienced in our 30s or 40s. And I need you to hear me when I tell you, this was not because we discovered some magic pill, or hired a tantra coach, or suddenly got 20 years younger. It happened because we finally understood a handful of truths that relationship science has been whispering for decades, truths about attachment, about emotional connection, about how desire actually works in long-term love. So let me walk you through the 5 insights that changed everything for us, because I promise they can change everything for you too, no matter your age. The first insight hit me like a lightning bolt. Desire is not the cause of intimacy. It is the consequence of emotional connection. We had it backwards for years. We kept waiting to feel desire before we would reach for each other, but desire doesn't show up uninvited after 30+ years together. Desire shows up when we feel deeply seen, deeply safe, and deeply cherished. Dr. Sue Johnson, who developed emotionally focused therapy, has this beautiful line, "Sex without emotional connection is just friction with better scenery." And the reverse is also true when emotional connection is alive and well. The body remembers how to want. So we stopped waiting to feel turned on before we touched. Instead, we started creating tiny moments of genuine emotional connection every single day. Sometimes it was as simple as putting our phones down at dinner and asking, "What was the best part of your day and what was the hardest?" Sometimes it was a 2-minute hug in the kitchen where we actually breathed together instead of the quick side hug we had fallen into. These weren't grand romantic gestures. They were micro doses of presence, and presence, my friends, is the strongest aphrodisiac that exists in long-term relationships. Have you ever noticed that, when you truly feel like someone is with you, all of you, not just the polite version, something in your nervous system relaxes, and suddenly touch feels different? Safer, more electric. If that's ever happened to you, drop a heart in the comments, because I want you to know you're not alone. The second insight came from reading Dr. John Gottman's research on what actually predicts whether a couple will stay sexually connected over decades. It's not frequency of sex. It's not how adventurous you are. It's something he calls turning toward bids. A bid is any attempt from one partner to get attention, affection, or connection. It can be as small as saying, "Look at that sunset," or squeezing your hand during a movie. Gottman found that couples who stay passionately connected over a lifetime turn toward those little bids about 86% of the time. The couples headed for divorce, only 33%. When I looked back honestly, I realized that for years we had been turning away or turning against each other's bids without even noticing. One of us would reach for the other, and the response would be distraction, exhaustion, or not tonight. We weren't mean about it. We were just busy, tired, human. But every missed bid is like putting another brick in the wall between two people. So we made a pact that feels almost embarrassingly simple now, but it changed everything. We decided that whenever one of us made any kind of bid, verbal, physical, emotional, the other person would turn toward it in some small way, even if we were tired, a hand on the small of the back, eye contact, and a smile. A "tell me more" instead of scrolling. We called it our 10-second rule. Never let a bid go unanswered for more than 10 seconds. And I swear to you, within weeks, the entire climate between us started to warm. Think about your own relationship for a second. When your partner reaches for connection, whether it's words or touch, do you turn toward them, away, or, "and this one hurts," against them? Be gentle with yourself when you answer that, but be honest, because this is one of those places where self-awareness becomes the doorway to everything else. The third insight came from understanding something that almost nobody talks about when it comes to sex after 50 or 60. Arousal non-concordance. There's this groundbreaking body of research by Dr. Lori Brotto and others showing that especially as women move through perimenopause and beyond, the body and the mind don't always agree about what feels good anymore. You can be mentally turned on and physically unresponsive, or physically responsive and mentally checked out. And for men, medications, prostate changes, and decades of stress can create the same disconnect. We used to think that meant something was broken. But actually, it just means the old roadmap doesn't work anymore. So we threw out the old script that said arousal has to come first, then desire, then pleasure. We started with pleasure, any kind of pleasure, and let arousal and desire follow at their own pace. Sometimes that meant long, slow, full body massages with no goal at all. Sometimes it meant making out like teenagers on the couch just because it felt sweet. We learned to celebrate responsive desire instead of waiting for spontaneous desire like it was 1995. And here's what nobody tells you: responsive desire can be richer, deeper, and way more sustainable than the lightning strike desire of early love. It just asks for one thing: willingness. Willingness to start even when you're not in the mood yet. Willingness to stay curious about your own body and your partner's body as they change. Willingness to laugh when things don't work perfectly, because at 64, sometimes knees creak and sometimes you have to pause to find the lube, and that's okay. If you're watching this and you've been telling yourself that your body has betrayed you, I want to gently invite you to question that story. Bodies change, desire changes form, but pleasure is still yours if you're willing to meet it in a new way. The fourth insight was about the stories we carry about aging and desirability. I realized I had internalized this toxic cultural message that after a certain age, women especially are supposed to quietly step out of the arena of being wanted. That sexuality becomes something we're allowed to manage for our partner's sake, but not something we're supposed to hunger for ourselves. And men get their own version, that if they can't perform like they're 30, they've somehow failed at masculinity. Those stories were living in our bedroom, louder than either of us admitted. So we did something that felt terrifying at first. We started telling each other the truth about what we actually wanted, what we were afraid of, and what we secretly still fantasized about. We had a series of no-pressure clothes on conversations where the only rule was radical honesty and zero judgment. And let me tell you, there is nothing more intimate than being fully seen in your desire and still being told, "I want that with you. We'll figure it out together." That kind of vulnerable communication rebuilt trust at a cellular level. And trust, my loves, is the soil that everything else grows in: emotional connection, physical safety, playful exploration. When trust is high, risk feels exciting instead of dangerous. When trust is high, trying something new at 60, 4 feels like an adventure instead of a referendum on whether you're still good enough. The fifth and final insight is perhaps the simplest and the hardest. We decided that playfulness belongs to every age. Somewhere along the way, we had both bought into the idea that being a serious grown-up meant leaving flirtation, teasing, and silliness behind. But the couples I've worked with, and the research bears this out, who keep play in their relationship have exponentially better sex lives at every age. So we brought play back on purpose. We started leaving each other ridiculous notes in the morning. We had a no phones in the bedroom after 9 p.m. rule that turned into dance parties in our underwear to songs from the 90s. We bought a book of silly sex challenges meant for 20-somethings and laughed our way through adapting them for bodies that sometimes need extra pillows and warmer rooms. And you know what we discovered? Joy is the fastest route back to each other's bodies. I wish I could bottle the look on my husband's face the first time I walked into our bedroom wearing something lacy I hadn't worn since the Clinton administration. He looked like a man who had just remembered he was alive, and I felt like a woman who had just remembered she was powerful. So here we are, 260. Somethings who were told by culture, by exhaustion, by well-meaning friends that were too old for that now. And we looked that lie square in the face and said, no, we're not done being in love with each other's bodies and souls. We're just getting started on the next chapter. If this story stirs something in you, if it makes you angry at how much you've quietly given up, or hopeful that maybe there's still time, or even scared because wanting this feels vulnerable, I want you to know every single one of those feelings is welcome here. You are not too old. Your relationship is not too far gone. Your body is not broken beyond repair. There is still music left in both of you, I promise. It might sound a little different now, play a little slower sometimes, but when you lean in and really listen, it's still there. So try one thing this week, just one. Maybe it's a 10-second longer hug. Maybe it's asking your partner, when do you feel most loved by me? Maybe it's scheduling a no-phones evening and seeing what happens when you're actually present with each other. Start tiny, start imperfectly, but start, and then come back here and tell me in the comments what happened, because your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to believe this is possible for them too. If this video touched something in you, please tap that like button. It really does help more people find conversations like these. And if you're ready for more real talk about keeping emotional connection and intimacy alive at every stage of life, hit subscribe and ring that bell. I release new videos every single week about relationship science, emotional health, and how to build the kind of love that only gets richer with time. Next up, I'm diving into the one question every long-term couple needs to ask if they want passion to survive the decades. And it's probably not what you think. You're not going to want to miss it. Until then, keep choosing each other, keep choosing yourselves, and never, ever believe the lie that you're too old to feel wanted. I'll see you in the next one.